So today we're really excited to chat with Chris, a real estate agent based in Northern New Jersey. He's been licensed since 2006, and Chris quickly and strategically built his business by integrating branding into his growth plan from the start. Now, I've had the privilege of working with Chris on creating high quality content for his marketing efforts, including his website, his brochures, and social media, making sure that his credibility and genuine care shine through every single image from start to finish. And this approach has really helped him establish trust with clients even before having that initial conversation. So let's dive in. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here with me. I am super jazzed. You and Christine, Dr. Greco, are great to work with. And the best part is that you're implementing your images. I know you are for sure. And I love seeing them either pop up on social media every so often, but I love seeing it on your website. And so I can't wait to hear about how that's going for you, how you're seeing it change, if it's changed your business. But right from the start, what I would love for us to do is just kind of do like a recap of how you got here. You were a teacher before this.
Yes,
So
yes,
tell
yes.
me your story, Chris.
Yeah, so I actually have been licensed as a realtor since 2006, but I wasn't really involved too much in the profession back then. The way I got into it, I was like home from college, just kind of hanging out. And my dad he owned a pizzeria in Jersey City for many years. So if anyone was watching this had pizza in Journal Square, they know the spot. It's three guys from Italy.
Okay.
Pretty famous spot there. Yeah. So, and but that can only take your family like so far. So he started investing in real estate. He's like, "Oh, why don't you get your license? Help me sell these houses." I'm like, "Okay." So I got my license, and then I'm like, "All right, Dad, I'm ready to sell these houses." He was holding them and renting them out and like for long-term investments. So then after that, I went into teaching and was doing it part-time. And it wasn't until I joined, actually a family member of mine is the team lead in Clifton. So I
Okay.
joined her team, and that's where I really learned the ins and outs of the business and like how to go through a contract with a client, how to do a showing. I learned all like the technical aspects of being a realtor through her because in the class they don't teach you any of that. You learn the laws and
Yeah.
the formulas and stuff they use for things, and that's it. So that's where I really like cut my teeth, so to speak, and learn how to operate as a realtor. And then in 2020, I was actually pursuing a career as a principal or assistant principal, like an administrator, school administrator. And then when COVID happened, it kind of like, I think like it did for a lot of people, hit the reset button. And I saw at the same time, I saw what was going on with the market, which was booming at that time. And I was like, I never gave this my full attention. Plus, I was tired of the commute to Jersey
Mhm.
City with the traffic. And I have children and I want to be like around more for them and rather than sitting in traffic. So I was like, what, let me give this my full attention. And, while I was still on that team, it was easy to get like clients. So I closed a lot of deals like very quickly at the end of that year. And I'm like, what, I'm going to do this on my own. Let me shift gears and instead of being on a team, like do things for myself. And that's where the whole like brand building and like running this as a business sort of, started to
Yeah.
germinate and I had to learn a lot very quickly, but it's been going very well so far.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
still remember Nick talking about you and just kind of making that switch. And he was just talking about how busy you were getting. And I think that's just, part personality. You have a great personality, and
Thank you.
people
Yeah.
feel like they can trust you right away. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important. But I think you said something really, really like you hit the nail on the head when you said you were starting to treat this like a business,
Yeah.
right? And I think a lot of agents, they treat it like a hobby, right? They're like, I'm not really sure if I want to do this. So it's kind of like a side thing. And because of that, they don't invest in branding, they don't invest in marketing. And sometimes, I mean, it reflects in the output of the actual business. So I think
Mhm.
we're really smart from the beginning to do that. So that's awesome. So in your experience, what are buyers and sellers expecting from their agents today that they weren't necessarily expecting maybe 3 to 5 years ago?
A great question. So, I mean, the market's changed. Like I said, I've been licensed since 2006, so I've
Yeah.
seen it evolve over the years. Like back in the day, there used to be if there was an open house, you'd put it in the newspaper. Like people had to read about it and like go see it. And then, scheduling showings was, you'd have to call and like make an appointment. Now we have an app to help, with things. And with that, I think there's an expectation of almost like, how people have been accustomed to like instant gratification
Yeah.
because of social media, because of their phone, stuff like that. So one is like you have to respond right away. You have to be able to, respond and go to a showing and make yourself available right away. And thankfully, like there's, like I said, there's now like different apps and different things that you can use or subscribe to help with that. And if you're working with a lot of buyers, sometimes it's really challenging to, all right, I'm going to look through and see what this buyer wants, look through and see what this buyer wants. So I partnered with a company that is part of my what's called CRM, or client relationship manager, and it's also linked to my website. So if somebody wanted to look for a house, they can go to my website, and there's an AI component where the website has like an AI assistant built in. It learns the patterns of like what my buyers are looking for. It will automatically email them listings that match their criteria. If I have a listing that I put on the market, and it matches one of their criteria, they'll automatically get notified. Those touch points that used to be like, a realtor would have to just like on their own manually remember, all right, I have to send this person, this is what this person's looking
Right.
for. A lot of that stuff is now handled with the AI component of my site, and it just makes it so much easier. So now by the time I engage with the client, I already know these are the houses that they're looking at. This is what they're interested in. This is their budget, and I can focus on the part that I'm good at, which is like talking them through the market, talking them through like the challenges in that particular town, talking them through, the expectations of if there's a multiple offer situation, how to win that. And those are the things that I can just focus on. And then the mundane, like, manual, all right, I gotta look data, sending data and things like that is all taken care of for me.
It's like having an assistant.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's incredible. It really like empowers you, like I said, to focus on the parts of your business that you shine at, and let the mundane tasks or like the kind of technical stuff gets handled automatically.
That's really great. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that helps to build trust, right? Because, you're seen as someone who understands their need, is really speaking to specifically what they're looking for. And so they automatically feel seen, heard, validated. They're like, yep, this is the person I want to work with. He gets it, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things and one of the reasons why I hired you to do like the shoot and the branding work for me is so much of my business and conveying that level of trust happens in person, because I've been doing this so long, like, and I've been on so many inspections and stuff like that, and I've done so many renovations, like I can walk through a showing and automatically in my head know, all right, this is the upgrades that you want. Here's like what it's going to cost. Here are some of the issues that you probably like face with this house and that will be brought up during an inspection. Like I'm very, very well versed in that, but it's really hard to convey that level of like trust and knowledge and experience unless I'm in person. And that's
Yeah.
where the whole branding thing comes in, because if you can showcase that you're a trusted, knowledgeable, experienced person before you meet them, because as you know, as a business person, a lot of this is like you get leads, you have to like talk to them, and not all those leads convert. You have to convert them into clients and stuff like that. So, it's like, what can I do to convey that level of like trust and experience to people I've never met before? And that's where the whole branding thing comes in. And that's why,
Absolutely.
like, I was so thrilled to hire you because, I mean, I've worked with photographers before, like with family shoots or like realtor shoots and stuff like that. And obviously, like, there's more like photography gear is more affordable these days than it ever has been. So yeah, you can find a person who takes like really nice looking photos,
Yeah.
but when we hired you, it was just like you knew the types of images we needed. You knew the types of images that would convey the brand vision, and we've had meetings about all that stuff. And it was so refreshing to work with someone who like you knew where I needed to go before I did, and you helped me kind of envision that. So I'm super
Awesome.
appreciative for you for that.
That's super awesome. I love to hear that because truly, like you said, building out individual storylines is so important, right? As every agent works differently, but your story when I met and we talked about your session, it was like he is incredibly credible and you have so much experience and you walk alongside them the entire journey. And that's so important to capture because like you said, it's really important to build that trust before they've even had a conversation with
Yeah,
you. And it's much, much, much easier to do that with your own face and your own
right.
content than it would be. I mean, cell phone images are important too, right? Like I see you doing your B rolls and those are
Yeah,
great to
yeah.
have that element of authenticity and just like
hmm
on the fly. But when you're conveying something so important like the purchase of a home, you want excellence, right?
hmm
And so if you want to show up excellent, that's where branding comes in. So I love
Yeah.
that you said that. And then along with all your programs, I think that's also part of the experience, right? People are feeling that, and so they're like this, and then they're going to refer you out. So I think that's great. And so we there's this conversation around trust fatigue in general for coaches for agents for and I've heard this time and time again where people are feeling like there are so many people out there. How do I know who I want to work with, right? And maybe this comes back to that whole personal branding and
Yeah.
branding. Is there anything else that you feel outside of that where people are like, how can I build trust with my agents, or how do you build trust with your agents outside of the personal branding, or is that really it?
No, I think there's a lot of like this is a very relationship driven career, so a lot of it has to do with like the relationships I've built with lenders, title people, lawyers, contractors, and stuff like that. And just having that network of people that you can lean on and rely on really helps. And then, once if you could tie that into your brand and showcase that in like your website and your social is great. But when push comes to shove, like, and where it really shines is like during a transaction when something comes up and there's an issue, like I know that I don't have to worry because my team is behind me and they'll be able to like come up with creative solutions to navigate some of the issues that you face. And I mean, if you're working with a seller, it could be like, what if like they find an oil tank underground? What if there's something called a Federal Pacific electrical box, which can be it was whatchamacallit, when they not outlawed, what's the word? Recalled. And if you have that, it could be an issue to get insurance or to purchase a house. So I can help my sellers before a house even hits the market say, hey, like here's what to expect with this. Here's how we can address it. Or if I'm working with a buyer and the rates are always changing, my lenders like have special programs to help them make sure that they can get into a particular property, without being house poor and without only being able to afford the house and not like food or internet or water, stuff like that.
The basics.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I love what you're saying that because you do have a team. You have a team that comes alongside you. It's
Yeah.
you, like you said, and the mortgage and the lender and the inspector.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, when you're kind of interviewing these people, because, it's important that you know who you're working with, do you look at their brand and think, this is who I want to work with because they are standout? Like, I want standout people for my clients, right? So do
Hmm.
you see that? Do you look for that in your lenders and your partners as well, where, they have to be stand up and their standard has to be excellence and it has to show and reflect in their branding in order for you to make that connection?
Right. So there's a few people that I've worked with so long that like before they even had a personal brand, they were just doing it so long, and I've known them through like other relationships I've had in the industry, and I've continued to use them. I'll probably refer you to them so that you can help them build their brand out.
Love it. I would love
Yeah.
it.
And then there are a couple of other, like when I'm looking for new vendors, I definitely take note. There was one contractor that I've used in the past for myself, and one of the things that stood out to me when he showed up was his truck. Like usually you hire contractors, their truck looks like, my kid's bedroom,
Been
just a
through it.
complete disaster. It's like, how do you find tools in that thing? But this guy was the truck was so meticulously well kept, like everything had its place. I was like, wow, that really stood out to me. And this guy's been working on his branding day in and day out, and it's registered in my brain. And now anytime like someone wants to do a big construction project, like I find myself saying like, hey, did you ever give this, you should give this guy a try. He's doing a lot of stuff now, and he's great. He does great work. I know he does great work because he's done some stuff for me, so I've seen it firsthand. But just seeing the stuff he's building in his brand has like put him on the radar for me. And now whenever I'm thinking of recommending a contractor, he's like the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, it gives them that
Yeah.
competitive edge in your mind because you're like, he gets it, right? And I think personal branding is something that has been around forever, right? Like everybody, like especially big companies have had a personal brand, a
Hmm.
business brand, a product brand. And I think only recently, I think have smaller companies have started to invest in it, and that's probably why you're seeing that shift where it's like some people didn't necessarily have it, a lot of word of mouth. And I
Yeah.
know real estate is a lot of word of mouth,
Hmm.
but it's really important to continue to show up like that online so that when people land on your page, they're not thinking, wait, is this the person that they referred me to, or
Yeah.
is it somebody else? Or maybe are they out of business because they haven't
Yeah.
updated
Yeah.
their website since 2004, right?
Yeah. They have a MySpace page.
Is that still around?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Awesome. So, Chris, I know you talked a little bit about your brand and how why you hired me for your business specifically. How would you say you were showing up before, like you started taking it seriously? Like, what was your day to day like, and how has that really shifted? Wait, I mean, your brand has been it's you've been building it for years. So, do you remember how you were showing up back then, and what was the thing that made you shift your perspective on like, I got to take this more seriously and I
Yep.
have to? do this?
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned, 2020 was the year I made the transition from teaching to real estate. And I'd say from 2020 through 2021, I was focused on like just the working with like individual clients and closing like those transactions out. And I wasn't looking like I wasn't like forward thinking enough. And I started to build the brand a little bit. Hired someone to do the logo and like, I've shifted to a few different like website companies over the years. But after 2021 is when I really started to think of it as, right, if I'm going to do this as a full-time career and treat it like a business, I need to create some systems and help myself kind of like come up with a plan to deal with each aspect of the business. So now that's when I started to experiment a little bit. I worked with a couple different companies, and now I have a couple of systems in place that I'm pretty comfortable with. When it comes to like, let's say if I have a new lead, what am I supposed to do? All right, the lead comes into the website. I send them a particular like email or something of introduction, and then I put them on a campaign where they can get like more information about the market that they're looking in or the houses that they're looking in. But if it's a seller, what do I do with the seller? All right, they're going to get a home valuation tool. Then I can go to their house and do like a one-on-one where I can give them a customized a report of what I think the range of what their house is would sell for. So I think a lot of it was me trying to create the systems and
Mhm.
plan for what to do with each type of client, as well as, like I said, more forward-thinking things like, all right, I need to do some marketing, some lead gen, and then eventually I'd like to shift gears and add a couple of agents on my team to help work some of the buyer leads and stuff like that. Right now it's just me, but I would love to share some of the experience I have with younger, hungry agents who want to learn the business, and they can handle a lot of the showings and work with buyers, and I could focus
Yeah.
on some of the other aspects of the business. So I think just looking forward and trying to create a long-term plan was really something I started building after 2021.
So smart, so smart.
Yeah.
And now you're already talking about having a team, which is like that's something else that you can really showcase. Like when you're
Hmm.
trying to attract the right type of talent, you have to make sure that you're putting the right messaging out there. It's there's a lot of agents that I hear from that they're like, I'm not attracting the people that I want to be attracting
Hmm.
to my team. And a lot of that has to do with the messaging that you're putting out into the world,
Yeah.
right? If you're not putting the right messaging out there, then you're likely going to be attracting the wrong type of talent
Hmm.
that may stay for about a year, but then they're not going to hang out or hang around. And you want
Right.
somebody
Right.
that's going to be there long term, especially if you're investing your energy to train them up. And it's almost like that teacher full circle for you too, Chris.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a part of my brain I can never turn that off. So
Yeah.
whether it's me like mentoring and training new agents, or whether it's me like becoming like a manager or something else in like the corporate aspect of my company later on, like there's a part of me that definitely loves to educate, loves to share knowledge, and also just loves to learn. Like I'm a lifelong learner. I
Yeah.
like different challenges. I like to, try to figure out ways to creatively problem solve different things. So that's a great way to exercise it.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about like we did your session. I had so
Hmm.
much fun. Like that was you picked the best
That was a
place.
cool spot. That was a
Oh my
great
gosh,
spot.
that was so beautiful. It is still the highlight of my gallery when I look at it.
Awesome.
It's beautiful. How would you say your work has shifted? Like once you got the pictures and I know you did a video too, which was
Yep.
fantastic. It was like really nice. It worked well. It complemented each other.
Hmm.
So how did you start implementing and how have you seen it change for you in
Yeah.
your business?
Yeah. So I had mentioned like shifting like my website company and CRM a couple times. The company that I landed on now, all the custom shots you did are implemented on that website, whether it's a page dedicated to like buyers and showcasing the different things that I offer to prospective buyers. It's me working with, pictures of me working with buyers, pictures of me like looking over a contract, pictures of me, doing showings. And then for sellers, same thing. So, I love having that there because, like you said before, a lot of people, when they're looking to hire someone, they want to, those things stand out. Like now, like when people were looking for me before, my face wasn't anywhere except for like my social media page. But now it's on the website, and I've changed like the print materials that I've used. So like the company that I work for, every real estate company is going to give their agents like a guide for like buyers, a guide for sellers that you can share with them. But I customize mine and I change all the pictures, the stock images they did with
Okay.
the images that you shot for me. And now it's so polished. So like someone goes to my website, they see
Yeah.
me. then we meet in person, they see me, and then they take home the print materials, and it's me.
Yeah.
And so much of real estate is just like your face and your name. I
Yeah.
actually tried to buy the domain for like chrisgreco.com, but somebody's sitting on it and won't let it go. I offered them like a few $1,000s, and they didn't they didn't
It's
sell it
a
to
good
me. So
name. It's a
I'm
good
like,
name.
yeah,
Oh man, well that's great. Yeah, I think when you show up like that, like you're saying, super polished, you just stand out. And it is
Mhm.
that consistency, it is that repetition, your face on the website, your face on social, your face on it's just constant reinforcement, right? Because
Yeah,
there are so many agents out in this world, but only Chris has Chris's face. It
right, right.
cannot be copied, it can't be replicated. They could take your systems and use the same systems, but the experience and
Yeah.
your face cannot be replicated.
Yeah, and so much of I think the main thing a lot of agents try to achieve is they want to be the main seller's agent in a specific area. Like, so we farm that
Mhm.
area and we try to like host events in that area. So it all kind of comes together. You know, you have your print marketing, maybe you send mailers out, maybe you have a billboard, you have a website, social media ads. Eventually, people see your face so many times that,
Yeah,
you know, once they need to sell their house or they're thinking of like, oh, might think of selling my house so I can move somewhere else and upgrade or maybe downsize or whatever, you're the first one that comes to mind because you've sort of like been bombarding them with marketing materials. But I mean, it might be annoying, but it works, and that's why so many companies spend so much money on marketing. And
yeah.
so if you're thirsty, you drink a Coke. If you're hungry, you get McDonald's or something like that.
It's so true. It's that constant reinforcement. And I don't think it's annoying. Like, I think sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to put my face out.
Right,
Like,
right, right.
I feel like people have seen my face, but they, like I've been working with a mentor who says it's actually really selfish to not put yourself out there because someone is looking for what you can deliver to them and only the way you
Yeah,
can do it. And if you don't put yourself out there, it's actually really selfish. And that perspective, I'm like, right? It is my duty.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is like a mental like some mental gymnastics you have to perform because you know putting yourself out there so much there's a level of uncomfort or
Yeah.
discomfort that you have initially, but once you get over that you're like, all right, this is just how it has to be, and you know it is what it is.
And then you can't go back, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't know about you, but I'm like, nah, I can't stop not posting
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It's consistency,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I have one last question for you, and then I'd love to hear just about just like where you are right now and just kind of like futures, kind of like ties in both of them.
Sure.
But what was going through your mind while we were having our session? Like, what were you thinking during that time?
I think the beauty of the session with you was that I didn't have to think about anything. I just got to
Sure.
enjoy it, showed up, had fun. You knew the poses, you knew like you had the timeline of where we needed to be. I just showed up and followed your instruction, and that was so like comforting because I could just turn my brain off for a little bit and all right, I'm just gonna have fun and enjoy and be myself. And yeah, that was
That's
so
awesome.
helpful because like, you know, like owning a business and running a business is you're constantly thinking things and strategizing and this and that. But like it was apparent to me from like our first meeting when you kind of like went through like you had the vision board and all that stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm in good hands. I don't need to do any. I just need to answer her questions and she's gonna make it happen. And you did. So I appreciate
That's
it.
awesome. That's so awesome because you're right. There are so many decisions we have to make as business owners, and you're not behind the camera. I know you've dabbled in photography, which I was a little bit like, oh God, he knows what I'm doing, he knows the secrets. So there was a little bit of pressure there too because you know what looks good and what's important. So, but yeah, I'm glad you felt relieved because people do get very uncomfortable in front of the camera, and I think it matters who you're working with too. You have to make sure that you're jiving because it is the only way that you're going to be yourself in front of camera and that you're going to be able to have stand out images that look like you and feel like you, right?
Right.
That's another thing, and they have to feel, and I think your images, they do. Like I said, it's one of my favorite sessions.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah.
And now looking ahead, I know you've had a recent change, in your broker. What does 2025 look like for you?
Yeah. I think this is a year where, you know, I'm kind of leaning on all the systems and planning that I've built and done in the past and just kind of focusing on the work and just doing the the day-to-day tasks of running the real estate business. So I have a couple of buyers that I'm working for. I just closed one actually in Cherry Hill, which is usually out of my area, but it was for a friend, so I made an exception and helped her out over there. I have a listing in Jersey City. It's a multifamily property, 1.25, and that's coming live on the market today. I got a couple of other listings that I'm working on behind the scenes. There's a few things we have to do to get ready, but they'll be coming up soon. And yeah, just doing the good work of being a realtor in New Jersey, which is a very difficult job these days, especially with the challenges of the market. The market is, to say it's changing is an understatement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of what I call like micro markets happening. So depending on the price point, depending on the city, there's so many different things that we're seeing in the markets. One town and one price range can see a tremendous amount of listings, and there's more inventory available. So, it's a little easier to get buyers in there. Other places, it's still like near impossible for buyers to get in. They have to, offer their kidney, their firstborn, their 100,000 over asking, and, it's still super competitive. So, there are a lot of different challenges, and, my company provides a lot of training, and we share a lot of knowledge with each other and to help us like navigate the challenges of the current real estate market in New Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's great. They're lucky to have you because it's obvious you have the experience, you have the passion for it, and that's another really critical component when you're working with someone, making
Hmm.
sure that they're doing it for the right reasons, right? You're not just trying to sell a house. You're really working for your buyer. You're working for your seller, and I think that's very obvious when people get to know you and they get to work with you. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's all I had for us today, Chris, but this has been wonderful. It's been wonderful to reconnect with you, and I love to
Yeah.
see where you're going with your brand. I'm super excited for you in this new year.
Always a pleasure, and thank you so much for all the hard work you did for myself and my wife for her business as well. We'll definitely be using those images and definitely be hiring you the next time we need, some brand building and things like that. But I appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, have a great day.